Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar titled Urban Upskilling, Cultivating Future Skills in Learning Cities. It is a network of Learning Cities, or GNLC, coordination team. I am delighted to be the moderator for today's session. Today's event is the third in a series of 6 webinars we are hosting this year as part of the GNLC's activities. Throughout the year, we will be exploring a broad range of topics, all focused on fostering inclusive learning opportunities for individuals of all ages at the local level. Each session will cover a different theme and address the needs of diverse learner groups. The topic we are addressing today, upskilling and future skills development, is particularly relevant. In the face of the twin transition and unprecedented labour market shifts, there is a growing need to equip all individuals with skills that will ensure that they thrive both today and tomorrow. To kick things off, I would like to provide you with a very quick overview of today's agenda. We have a very exciting session to look forward to. First, we will hear from Ms. Tilde Ussing, who works for the Local Employment and Skills Division at the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. We will then have presentations from 2 learning cities, Shanghai in the People's Republic of China and San Justo in Argentina. Following these interventions, we will then proceed to have an open discussion with questions from the audience, which we invite you to share throughout the session. We do have quite a packed agenda today, so I would like to kindly ask all speakers to strictly stick to the time slots they have been allocated. Before we dive into this exciting topic, I would like to share a few key technical details to ensure the session runs as smoothly as possible. First, please note that this event is being recorded and will later be available via the UIL website. Secondly, we invite you to please use the chat box for any comments you may have or to let us know where you are tuning in from. Please use the Q&A box for any questions you may have for our speakers today. We will do our very best to address as many of your questions as possible during today's event. Finally, interpretation is available throughout today's webinar in French, Spanish, Arabic, Korean, and Chinese. I would like to take this opportunity to warmly thank all of our partners who are supporting us with the provision of language interpretation. Korean interpretation is kindly provided today by Dangjin City in the Republic of Korea. Thank you so much for your contribution to financing interpretation today. We are also very pleased to say that Chinese interpretation is provided by the Shanghai Municipal Institute for Lifelong Education, or SMILE, in the People's Republic of China. And for Arabic, interpretation is being provided by the Regional Centre of Quality and Excellence in Education under the auspices of UNESCO, located in Jubail, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much once again to our partners for making this webinar more accessible through your support. We are truly grateful. Without further ado, let us now hear from Ms. Tilde Ussing, who works at the Local Employment and Skills Division at the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. Tilde, you have 10 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katie, and hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. I'll just go ahead and share my screen so you can see a short presentation that I have prepared for you. I'm sure it's going to take a while to upload, but oh, that was not the right one. We see here. Katie, let me know if it works.
That looks very good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So again, thanks so much to all of you for being here and to UNESCO for inviting me to this event. As said, my name is Tilde and I work at the OECD in our Division for Local Employment and Skills. So we focus on supporting regions and cities, but also national governments in designing local employment and skills policies that are adapted to local and regional needs. So first here, just a brief overview of what we do. As said, We focus on both employment and the skills side of policies, and in between that, in terms of how we support, we do everything from the analytical piece to providing advice and guidance to providing implementation guidance, and also facilitating these types of peer-to-peer exchange events. That is, I think today is a very good example of. So that's just a brief overview. I'll say a few words about the context that we are in, building on some of our recent studies and papers. And then I'll move in to say a few more words about a very recent paper that will be launched actually today on the role of subnational governments in adult skill systems, which I think is very topical to what we're going to discuss today. So just first of all, briefly in terms of the context, and I think this is important in terms of understanding why do we actually discuss the role of cities in facilitating adult learning. So some of our recent findings clearly shows the diverging geographical impact of the green transition. So both the green regional employment shares vary significantly, at least across OECD countries, from less than 10% in some areas to more than 30% in others. But also within countries, there are significant disparities from 5 percentage point or less between regions to more than 10 percentage point between regions in other countries. And the same can be said about the digital transition. So in particular, the impact of generative AI reaches almost half of workers, but only in some regions. So within countries, the top region is 70% more exposed on average to generative AI in terms of jobs available, skills needed, than the least exposed region. And exposure, as we have seen it from the data we have available across OECD countries, ranges from around 13% in Colombia, Cauca region, to close to 50% in Brussels region in Belgium. And that's what you see here on the figure. And overall, we see that metro regions or urban areas are significantly more exposed than other regions. And this is different than what we saw from the automation wave that came earlier, where it tended to be more the rural areas that was hit the hardest by changes in available jobs and skills required. And just the last piece of data I wanted to share with you. So while labor market have become tighter overall, we see regional labor shortages that vary within and across countries. So the region facing the highest labor shortages has more than 5 times more vacancies per unemployed person than the least tight region on average. And all this is just to say that given these significant variation in how global megatrends impact labor markets regionally or locally, of course, it's important to discuss the role of cities or subnational governments in meeting these challenges and designing policies that can facilitate or help workers stay in the labor market or enter the labor market and remain relevant for the labor market. So now I'll move to a few findings from our new paper on the role of subnational governments in adult skills systems. So this is how it looks like, and there's a link and a QR code that you can use afterwards. We'll make sure to share it so you can find the paper. But first of all, I mean, what we've set out to do with this paper is to map the role of subnational governments in adult skill systems. And you can ask the question very naturally, why should we do this? Why is it interesting? I think there's a couple of key points as to why we've set out to do this. First of all, the urgency in terms of continuously updating and future-proofing adult learning systems, given the changes we see in labor markets and the global megatrends that I just discussed. So that, I think we all agree that adult learning should be on the top priority for most governments now and in the future in order to meet changing demands from the labor market. But the other point is that these systems tend to be highly complex. So adult learning is very seldomly like a unique silo policy. It's very often interlinked with other policies. And often we also see that responsibilities are split across different levels of government, but also across various types of public and non-public stakeholders. So we need to understand governance structures and how we make things work together in the best way possible. Then there's the point about geographic diversion and again, division of responsibilities. So given that it turns out very differently across areas, of course, we need to understand what is the role of subnational governments. And what we saw before we started this work, that no one has really in a very structured way provided this overview of how much is subnational governments actually involved. It's something we speak a lot about. I think we can all agree that in all countries they're involved in some way or another, but we just don't have the hard data to say they are involved in this and that way, and how this is how it looks across countries. So that's what we set out to do, basically to map the allocation of formal, first of all, responsibilities of adult learning policies across levels of government in all OECD countries. And based on that, trying to organize countries into governance models, centralized, combined, and decentralized, and draw some lessons based on these findings across policy areas and countries. So I won't share all of the findings, but I'll give you a couple of highlights in the interest of time. So this is the overall picture. How we've organized them is 13 countries we see, and again, this is across OECD countries only. 13 countries have been categorized as centralized, 16 as combined, and 9 as decentralized. And here it's important for me to say that when we speak about adult skills in this paper, we take a very broad approach. So it includes the training included in active labor market policies. It includes vocational education and training for adults. It includes continued education and training. So what you can often say is the re and upskilling part for those who are already in the labor force. And of course, also the more basic adult skills provision, in particular for those who are furthest from the labor market. So what you see here is the combination and assessment across all those 4 policy areas into one categorization for countries. What we have in the paper is a more detailed categorization also per each policy area for each country. So you can find more information in the paper on that. And then I just wanted to, here you see 2 of the policy areas that we dive into: active labor market policies, the training part, and adult education, which in this case would be equal to the basic skills provision. So basic English skills, basic literary skills, etc. That's what we call adult education in this policy area. And just I included these 2 as an example. What we see for active labor markets policies is that this is the policy area that is most frequently financed, implemented, and delivered by national governments, often in form of a national public employment service agency. But it often takes place through a delivery structure of deconcentrated offices. So this national organization operates locally, and we see that local authorities very often complement national efforts, in particular supporting those who are furthest from the labor market. And then on the other hand, the adult education basic skills part is the policy area that is most frequently financed, implemented, and delivered by subnational governments. And often this is done in cooperation with non-state actors. And what we see is that countries have put in place various mechanisms, in particular financial mechanisms, to guide local provision from the national level. So that's just, again, a highlight of some of the findings. There are more details on the various policy areas that you can find in the paper, including also all the definitions that we've used to done this work, because in the end, it's been a highly technical and a bit nerdy type of work we've done here. But I just wanted to move on because we also have plenty of examples in the paper. We have examples of how countries have structured their systems, but also, and this is, I think, really important for the discussion today, some examples of the role of cities in creating ecosystems for lifelong learning. So acknowledging that they play a significant role, we've looked into, so how can they kind of use their responsibilities to guide lifelong learning provision in creative ways and using their ecosystems of different actors at the local level. Here I've just highlighted 4 different categories that I think are interesting. So the first is smart city initiatives. So for example, cities using technology to assess skills gaps and match citizens to training, but also providing digital literacy programs, especially in underserved communities. The second is urbanization and the green and digital transition. So really integrating future skills needs into everyday urban life. I think also a very interesting example of how cities use their powers locally. The third one is policy integration. So for example, integrating urban planning and education to make learning spaces accessible to citizens. But it can also be the integration of inclusion policies with skills development for specific groups, or even partnerships with private sector to create opportunities for skills development. And the fourth category is this collaborative learning spaces. So it can be community-led training initiatives or initiatives that are co-designed with communities. And I'm sure all of you here today have many more examples of how this can look like locally in terms of creating ecosystems for lifelong learning. I'll just have one last slide in terms of some of the other takeaways that we have kind of identified, building on all this work that we've done in terms of mapping systems across OECD countries. So I think the first one, I mean, it's an ongoing discussion in terms of what is the best model, decentralized or centralized. And overall, I think we've seen that multiple times. Both models offers advantages and challenges. And what I would like to quickly move to is not a discussion about whether or not systems should be decentralized, but just acknowledging that there are multiple types of systems out there. And the most important is actually to identify the governance mechanisms that we can use to strike the right balance between national coherence and local ability of adaptation, and making sure that things work together in the right way. And here we've identified multiple types of coordination mechanisms that a country or various levels of government can use to make the system work better, given that most systems are multi-dimensional in some sense or another. Another interesting finding is that many of the reforms that we have reviewed have reflected a very strong engagement of local governments in the early design until the late implementation. Even though the reforms have been taking place mainly at the national level, we've seen that it's really important to engage local stakeholders from the very beginning of the reform process. And then lastly, and I said it at the beginning, we've mapped the formal competences, because if we had to go beyond, it would be impossible, I think. But what we see from all the discussions with different participants, stakeholders from all the countries that we've been engaged with, is that obviously local or subnational governments often play a role that go beyond a formal mandate. A lot of things are going on at the local level that is not per definition included in national legislation or something that we can map looking only at the formal responsibilities. But that doesn't mean that it's not important, and it's maybe even more important, at least for certain groups or in certain cases. So that was the last slide from my side. I'll close again, stop sharing, and pass on the floor to you again, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tilda, for guiding us through the key findings from the new paper, which looks very exciting. We're very much looking forward to going through that in detail. And I think the point she raised around the importance of integrating future skills needs into everyday urban life, co-designing learning with communities, and also being able to clearly determine who exactly is responsible for adult learning processes in different contexts are all highly relevant for today's discussion on upskilling and future skills development in learning cities. So I really think your presentation provides a very good foundation for the practical examples we will be hearing about in today's session. Thank you so much again. Now, before we hand over to the speakers from the two UNESCO Learning Cities represented today, I would like to ask our participants a quick question in relation to this webinar's main topic. That question is, what is the biggest barrier to future skills development in your city? So, what is the biggest barrier to future skills development in your city? To respond, please navigate to slido.com and enter the code 3853524. That's 3853524, which will also be shared in the chat shortly. You can also scan the QR code there if that's easier. So I will give you a few moments to submit your responses. I see people have started typing already. And as the answers come in, we will see the word cloud begin to take shape. So we're very eager to hear about the main challenges your cities are facing in this area in diverse contexts across the globe. So already some are coming in here. When sharing your answers, you might like to consider future skills encompassing critical thinking, digital literacy, emotional intelligence, and others. Already, some of the key barriers we're seeing, okay, lack of funding cuts. So, really seeing the centrality of funding, money coming through here. Of course, a key component, resource mobilization when it comes to supporting future skills development in cities. Very interesting to see how strongly that has come out. Lack of budget as well, also tying into that. I see some other barriers are also popping up here beyond the funding component. Lack of information, very interesting. Maybe that relates to skills needs or also promoting these opportunities in local communities. Um, and also there are some others coming in there. We're seeing again, time and time again, this issue of funding coming up. Unclear responsibilities for adult education on this topic. Very, very interesting, this one. I think it links quite nicely to Tilda's presentation, really understanding who is responsible for what when it comes to supporting future skills development. I think we can leave it there then maybe now with the Slido. Thank you all so much for your answers and your active participation. It's very interesting to see the wide variety of challenges faced in your cities when it comes to future skills development. So with that, let us now turn to Mr. Jiecheng Li, Director of the Shanghai Municipal Institute for Lifelong Education, SMILE, East China Normal University. He will share how Shanghai is addressing climate literacy for seniors in the context of future skills development. So, Jiecheng, you have 8 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kati, and dear friends. I'm Jiecheng Li from East China Normal University, and I work for Shanghai Municipal Institute for Lifelong Education. You can call it a SMILE. Shanghai is a member city of global network of learning cities. So in recent years, Shanghai is focusing more on green and digital transition, focusing on ESD and climate change education. So as we know, everybody matters in the development of the for the future. But today, I'd like to invite you to focus on seniors. So my topic is developing seniors climate literacy, the efforts of Shanghai Climate Change Education Development Consortium for Seniors. So we handed down something with the school students, young children. But today, as for the problem for Shanghai, seniors lifelong education is a very important topic for us. So for Shanghai, we have 5 municipal level senior universities and 37 branches. We have 16 districts. So every district has 2 or 3 senior universities. And we have over 200 sub-districts or towns or villages, so that we have over 200 sub-district and township level senior schools, and over 6,000 village learning centers. So all of them are helping the seniors to learn about digital skills, about some vocational skills. So as for the efforts, we handed down something. For example, this is a senior university from Jing'an district. They spend the time on the visiting the river, some parks, and they handed down something related to the climate change education. So that is the beginning for us. Just and for the another university, they invite the grandparents and grandchildren to learn together related to the ESD and climate change education. This lady is from another university, Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So these efforts impressed us very much. So today, I'd like to share something related to this network. I will talk about the establishment, about the curriculum development, and the outcome of the network. So who we are. This network is established in November last year. And one principal from the senior school is the president for this network. So 5 senior schools and ECAU, the university, worked together. We organized this group to find out the solutions and the experience to develop the climate change education for seniors. I think maybe it's the efforts from the root, but it has got the help and the help and some financial support from the government, so that it's the balance from the government and from the root efforts. So by now, this ally or this network has organized 2 working meetings and has hosted 1 international conference this year. And this network highlights the unique of the senior university, just focusing on seniors. So it's related to the resource sharing, related to the curriculum development together, not only by one school. So we hand down many domestic and international cooperation just by this network. And what we hand down or are doing, I think there are some issues related to it. The first one is about the guidelines-based curriculum development. Because in senior universities or senior schools, always we teach arts, we teach some music, but how about the climate change education for the seniors? So we developed the guidelines based on the learning from other countries, based on the understanding of Chinese culture and the policy from the national or local government, so that we had 3 guidelines. First one is the whole one, guidelines for climate change education, and then we have another one, senior education edition, and then the third one, intergenerational learning edition. All of them are related to the seniors teaching, seniors learning. So how about the contents? It's related to everything. So as the expert said, adult learning can be communicated with daily life, community life. So climate change education is related to everybody, everywhere, and every aspect of life. So as for us, we focused on the health, the lifestyle, the energy and new technologies, about the food security, about the water resource management, ecosystems, climate justice, social participation, so that is related to the seniors' daily life. And how we do it, how we can carry out this curriculum. By now, we had developed several ways, For example, the field studies, classroom teaching, online learning, volunteer service in the community, intergenerational learning, especially for the grandparents and grandchildren. So we have many ways in different senior schools. So every time we will share the ways, share the experience to help each other to develop the whole the whole of the curriculum. By now, we are continuing the work. For example, this is the classroom teaching. The professors will teach the grandparents or seniors in the classroom about the urban development, about climate change issues, so that the seniors can learn very quickly and more questions and answers can happen between the professors and the seniors. This is learning by doing. So when they visit the park, visit the field, and they find some veggies, some leaves, so that they combine them into a picture by drawing, by doing, so that they can understand the situation of the community. And this is related to the scientific, some scientific work. It is related to the solar energy. So the seniors will visit some factories and work with some vocational students, vocational school students, so that the experiment can help the seniors to understand the principle of the climate change. This is the whole family. You can find the children, the mother, the grandmother. They walk along the river by the guide of the senior school, so that the whole family is learning related to it. So the last one is what's the outcome of this this online or network? So by now, we are continuing the research related to this work, so that by now we had found something. For example, for the seniors, there are knowledge and skills that will learn by the process, so that they will know more related to this topic, not only about the science, but also related to the philosophy thinking, to the geography, to the biodiversity. So many issues are related together. The second one is about the global perspective and the sense of local value, especially the global perspective, because the seniors now they have more ways to know what have happened in Hamburg, in Espoo, in different learning cities. So by now, the more seniors are getting familiar with the global perspective or global issues. Actually, climate change education is a global issue. So the third one is about the ability to apply the skills into family and community or social life. What they had learned always apply into the life. So they will talk and work with more family members, community members to improve the situation. The last one is about awareness and action of lifelong learning. So it's a very challenging task for seniors, because they should learn more related to the science, to the political, to many subjects, but they are doing something. So by now, the consortium's efforts can benefit a vast number of seniors, just because it's the beginning for us. But we think we value this work. We think we should develop the whole curriculum, and then we will work with over 200 seniors schools together in Shanghai. So we are trying the best and welcome the friends to Shanghai this September. We have two conferences related to ESD and climate change education. This is the website. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Xie Cheng, for sharing this truly inspiring example of how a city can foster climate literacy. So, in the face of the climate crisis and related challenges, I think that fostering climate change education and the various skills that come with that for all individuals in cities will become more and more important. And it was really wonderful to see the way your efforts in Shanghai are rooted in concrete plans. They rely on a close articulation with senior universities, schools, learning centres, and others, and also count on such a wide array of methods encompassing intergenerational learning, which comes out really strongly. So it was really brilliant to also see some pictures there of learners in action too. Thank you so much again. For our audience, please feel free to share any questions you may have for today's speakers in the Q&A box. These will be explored during our discussion later. I see some are already coming in. So now let us learn about the experiences of the city of San Justo in Argentina as we turn to Miss Monica Astore, Education Coordinator in the municipality of San Justo. This intervention will be delivered in Spanish, so if you do wish to follow it in English, please make sure that you are in the English interpretation channel. You can find this by clicking on the button that looks like a globe at the bottom of your screen. Monica, you have 8 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Before sharing my presentation, in order to socialize my presentation, I really want to thank in further detail to all the UEL team, Mr. Raúl Catarabaldez, Paulo, Katie, Adriana of Retratam, for relying on me so that I can socialize and share my presentation with colleagues all over the world. This simple and humble experience of the city of San Justo that has been planned in the paradigm of learning cities. So I'm gonna start share my screen, and please let me know if you are seeing my screen.
Listo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen now? Yes, we can see it, but probably you can click on it. Yes, 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 I can see it there. Thank you very much. All right. Related to the to today's topic, that this updating of the upskilling the urban skills, cultivating the competence of the learning settings. I want to tell you that our city, the city of San Justo, is located in the province, inside the province of Santa Fe in the Republic of Argentina. It has a population of 27,000 inhabitants with a growth of 1.3 of 1.5% per year. As this is a city that is outstanding related to other cities in Argentina, because 20% of the municipality budget is given to education as a great tool for planning of the urban development. Likewise, let you know that the city of San Justo is a city that belongs to the network of learning cities for lifelong learning since the year 2019. This is why it has aligned its programs of management and interrelation of management related to the paradigm of lifelong learning paradigm. I was listening our colleague of OZDE about how the local management in the territory for the lifelong learning and for learning that is based on local place, we can carry out this paradigm. What I'm trying to show to you is how we have aligned by the different stages of life different programs that are trying to cultivate and foster the future skills for learning cities, and in this particular case in the city of San Justo. We are started with childhood, and we can see on the slide how we shepherd the child with programs, for example, the shepherding to the early childhood, from the pregnancy, from the postpartum, the nurturing, and ongoing stage, for example, with a program by education to the first childhood that we develop in the municipality kindergarten, the three municipality kindergarten and a Montessori space, proper an educational training that shepherds the elementary and junior high school education of our youth by the Municipal School of Fine Arts with complementary in art, dance, music, English. Another specific program that is given to shepherd the school's trajectory, that in turn these programs shepherds uncovers and subdivides that try and achieve to shepherd the neighbors of the city for a lifelong term non-formal educational training that has to do exactly with the initiation in the child in the early childhood in robotics, in artificial intelligence, emotional intelligence by these programs that we call programming and educational robotics. And let me tell you that we have two urban spaces and urban contexts of technological inclusion that allow for all the skills, all the technological skills and the innovation for the future in cities. This is a school orchestra that shepherds the municipal development in children with orchestra training and also by teaching concerts, a council of boys and girls where citizen participation at early childhood is essential and the great access of work related to the management of the city. But also, this environment for the early childhood, it's a context that is shepherded by educational platforms because our model, our educational urban model related to foster the proposals of innovations for the future are based in the STEAM method, learning by doing, and namely by maths, science, engineering, arts, and emotional intelligence. If we go on in the ages of the lifelong learning, and specifically in teenage and early adulthood, our city is an ecosystems that develops that the different nuances shepherding as well the children who graduate of elementary school that go to junior high school to adopt modalities that later on will allow him to take vocational decisions for university or college, and that talent that is generated and managed in the city will go in crescendo so that those professionals in turn give back to the city that social productive fostering that the city needs in order to become into a pole of technological development. If we go on with ages related to the lifelong learning, for example, we get to notice that along with our other colleagues, namely with the seniors, a huge challenge that we have in our city would be the first childhood and for senior age. We have had to develop curriculum to keep active all the seniors and for the seniors to be in a stage of their life that besides the expertise to have a balance related to digital innovation and to release all the potential of learning that the seniors have and that they can do in their age. We make programs to shepherd and we incorporate to the proposals of centers of life for seniors. And with our teams, we go to these community centers, we go to these homes, we go to families for seniors. We prepare this training for educators for seniors, but also parallel, we do this digital literacy program in the Aula del Futuro or future classroom that are spaces given to the technological and digital inclusion because the one and only way that we can develop and foster the future skills is to be connected and above all how we are going to be trained in the digital area. So this is what we are doing focused in the STEAM education. At the early beginning of my presentation, I mentioned to you that we have two different spaces for inclusion, specifically to develop the urban skills, and that we have this development of skills that is irradiated to the social context of the locality of San Justo. The Área del Futuro or future classroom is a space given that is dedicated to developing skills that have to do with generating soft skills online for boys and girls from 3 years old to 12 years old, where specifically they get to develop the mathematical thought and robotics by programs and proposals that have to do with programming in education as well as in robotics as the great and main tools to generate the development of mathematical thought and the capacity to resolve problems. Therefore, children learn to program connected and not connected as well. They get to generate their own projects, to use artificial intelligence, and also to generate proposals of 3D printing. The voice of childhood, the transformation from art makes for the city to be really in an ongoing but slowly transformation later on to impact on the daily life of citizens. Let me share to you those photographs and tools that both boys and girls are developing and using in the future classroom so that they can work and that they can develop their own proposals related to the ongoing life learning, but basically to being updated to the circumstances related to technological innovation and to the capacity of the future skills. Monica, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting you. That is so interesting. It's really, really outstanding. We are learning a lot. However, I would like to ask you if you could finish. You only have 1 minute left. Thank you very much. So that we can go to the Q&A session. Yes, I'm closing. Yeah, the last space will be Tecnoteca. Tecnoteca is for youth with 7 areas of innovation: radio, TV, gaming, digital literacy, robotics, 3D printing, techno-kits, and streaming education. This is a space given to technology, to the world of the youth, to the world of the developing of technological and entrepreneurship proposals, and a space where both technology companies and the human talent join together in my city. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you soon in San Justo.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for that really comprehensive intervention. It was truly fascinating to learn more about your city's efforts to foster future skills development, in particular for individuals of all ages, which is something key for this topic in learning cities. It was great to learn about Aula del Futuro, and you also touched on your city's work to advance with really exciting topics like 3D printing, robotics, using AI to foster creativity and gamification through a lifelong learning approach. So it was a really super interesting presentation, and thank you so much for the very concrete ideas and strategies you shared, which may serve as a source of inspiration for other Learning City representatives here today. Thank you. So now, in the interest of time, let us move to our Q&A session. And we see that many interesting questions have been coming in. Thank you so much to everybody for sharing those with us. Just in the interest of time, I would ask our speakers to be quite brief in responding to the questions. First of all, I would like to turn to Mr. Jia Cheng Li from Shanghai and ask you a couple of questions. I'll merge them together in the interest of time, just to make sure we can cover as much as possible. But Jia Cheng, we've received some different questions from you. So what is the age range of seniors that you're referring to? So what ages are the seniors that you mentioned? And also, could you please share some thoughts on how you are approaching the monitoring and evaluation side of things. So could you elaborate on the indicators you have established to verify whether these learning experiences translate to day-to-day behavioral change among older adults, and also on the specific monitoring and evaluation methods you use to track and assess those outcomes over time? If you could maybe share this with us in 1 minute, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Thank you very much. Actually, we had learned from Hamburg about how to evaluate or track the achievement of the learners. So for our program, maybe I can mention 2 points. The first one is about the feedback during the learning process. So when we conducted the curriculum, the seniors are learning in the classroom, in the community, so that we can get the feedback directly. So we need not wait for 1 year, just in the process. So this is the first point. The second point is related to the long ways research. We are developing approach. We want to find out the outcome just by collecting more data, so that maybe half a year or after one semester, we will collect more data related to the seniors learning, related to the family learning, or the professor's feedback. So we will collect more data, and we are from the university, so that we will do some research, just data-based, so that we will get more help. We want to get more help from you. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jia Cheng, for that very thoughtful response there. Super. So in the interest of time, I would like to now turn to Tilda regarding a question that's come in relation to the freeway typology of centralized, combined, and decentralized systems. So the question says, in several countries, responsibilities are split. For example, vocational training may be devolved to regional authorities, while basic adult education remains centrally governed, yet they are placed in a single category. Might this simplification limit the precision and usefulness of cross-country comparisons and policy lessons? So if you could kindly share your thoughts on that in around 1 minute, that would be much appreciated. Thank you, Tilda.
Yes, thanks so much. Thanks so much for the question. It's highly relevant. I mean, in the interest of time, I couldn't share all the details, but indeed we do map countries per policy area. So we do have an assessment of whether or not a country has a centralized, decentralized, or combined system for each of the policy areas, and also for each of the 5 types of responsibilities that we map: governance, intelligence, financing, implementation, and delivery. And what you saw in one of the slides is the overall summary. And I agree that can leave out a lot of important details, but all the rest of the details you do have in the paper also, because in the end, it might be more relevant for you to understand how do you compare VET systems across countries, or how do you compare the basic adult skills part of the adult skills system. So all that you have in the paper. Final word to say is the approach we've taken in terms of the summary of categorization is that if a country has at least 3 areas that we categorize as centralized, we would categorize that country as overall centralized. And the other way around, at least 3 areas that are decentralized, then we would categorize it as overall being decentralized. I hope that makes sense, and otherwise you have it in the paper.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tilda, for that great response there. And very much, as we mentioned earlier, looking forward to going through the paper in detail. Thank you so much again for sharing the link also in the chat there. So I think we have time for one final question. Turning to you now, Monica. We have a question that has come in with regards to the most important future skills. So which future skill do you consider to be the most important, Monica, looking ahead? I know in San Justo you're working to support the development of various skills across the community, but which skill would you consider to be the most important for the future in San Justo and maybe beyond? I would invite everybody who wants to listen to the response of Monica in English to make sure you're in the English interpretation channel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie, for your answer. I truly believe that according to the experience that we have at local government, the most important future skills that we have is generating in new generations and in seniors as well, the capacity to resolve problems, the soft skills that will allow us to generate new niche of employment. Today, a company, the enterprises need those soft skills. That is why we rely on soft and hard skills, and specifically in developing in children robotics, educational programming, the STEM model, learning to do those soft skills that today will access to the market of new employment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Monica. Totally agree. I think the importance of soft skills, problem solving capabilities that can be transferable to a wide range of contexts will be super, super important, I think, for many, many cities looking ahead. So thank you so much for your response there. Okay then, in the interest of time, we will now have to bring our Q&A segment to a close today. Thank you for the really interesting questions you shared and to our panelists for your thoughtful responses. Hopefully there will be other opportunities to keep exploring questions we didn't have time to address today and this topic more broadly very soon. Thank you very much, everyone, once again for your great contributions to today's webinar, which has been full of energy and inspiration. I found the information and experiences shared by our excellent speakers from the OECD, Shanghai and San Justo very enriching and exciting, and I do hope that other learning cities feel inspired by these efforts and will be able to learn from them in the context of their own work. I would now like to invite Mr. Raúl Valdez-Cotera, coordinator of the GNLC, to deliver his closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you for everyone for your great contributions to today's webinar. Particularly, I found the interventions and experiences you share here very enriching, and I hope that other cities can take away a good inspiration of what we heard today. I think that today's presentation explore some of the critical skills that are and will be crucial as we build our cities of tomorrow, including those related to digital and climate literacy, among others. And it was wonderful to learn from concrete initiatives used to support the development of future skills across different stages of life. The presentations shared today also highlighted the pivotal role of local leadership and institutions in driving forward upskilling from a lifelong learning perspective within communities. I would like to thank you for your presentations, and would like to thank also to UIL colleagues involved in the preparation and facilitation of this webinar. I'm looking forward to our upcoming events, and you can find our full calendar and more information about each session on the UIL website. We would also like to remind you that as a Global Network of Learning City member, you can express interest in presenting in one of the webinars via online survey being shared by our team in the chat. And to let you know that our next webinar will take place on Wednesday, 20th of August at the same time as today. The event is going to be moved with the title of Digital Learning in the City, Leveraging AI for Inclusive Learning. I think it will be very promising. It's a topic that would be very important to learn what cities are doing on here, given the fact that there is a lot of there are a lot of programs, initiatives that are going in this direction. Registration is now open for this, so we wish you with all this a very nice evening ahead, and thank you to everybody.